Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, 2019, the year that marketing holds sales accountable. I'm Brian Anderson of Demand Gen Report and I'll be your moderator for this presentation. We've got a really great session in store for us here today, and I'm happy that all of you were able to join us, so let's get started. We've got a few housekeeping slides here. For those of you who may be new to Demand Gen Report, we are an online media company publishing daily news, a weekly email newsletter, special reports, original research, and a plethora of additional resources. If you haven't done so already, join more than 50,000 subscribers to our weekly newsletter by subscribing to Demand Gen Report today. We also host a premier live event in Scottsdale, Arizona every February called the B2B Marketing Exchange, which focuses on helping professionals improve their B2B marketing and sales strategies and generate the best results with their initiatives. Rated a top B2B marketing conference by Forbes, each year B2BMX brings over 900 marketers together for a 3-day educational and networking event that includes more than 85 sessions throughout 6 topical tracks. You can learn more about this unique event and sign up for updates at b2bmarketing.exchange. And be sure to follow B2BMX on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook for updates and special offers. We also invite you to become a part of our online community of B2BM experts, where you can connect with like-minded professionals, join in B2B-focused conversations and initiatives, and even compete for some great prizes. Check out our thriving community at b2bmx.influitive.com/join/now. We're also hosting a special sweepstakes throughout this week-long series where attendees can win Starbucks gift cards or even free tickets to our annual B2B Marketing Exchange event this upcoming February. If you register for an SPS 18 webinar, you will automatically be entered for a chance to win, and if you attend any sessions live, you'll receive a second entry. We'll be giving away a Starbucks gift card every session and 1 free pass to B2BMX per day. So be sure to attend all of this week's sessions, SPS 18 sessions, for your best chance to win. For today's presentation, we're using the On24 platform. During the presentation, you can access all the information you need from the platform toolbar. During and after today's presentation, please follow along and share your thoughts and feedback on Twitter and LinkedIn using the hashtag SPS18. You'll also see that you can tweet directly within the On24 platform here using the Twitter widget on the left-hand side of your screen. We also encourage you to ask our presenter questions. To do so, simply click the Q&A widget at the top right corner of the screen. Today's presentation is slated to run about 25 to 35 minutes with 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A following the session. You can submit your questions using the Q&A widget at any time. Today's session is being recorded, and all attendees will receive an archive link to the presentation to go back and review or to share with your peers and colleagues. In addition to joining the conversation online and submitting your questions, we also welcome you to let us know how we're doing. In an effort to constantly improve the level of value we provide during these webinar series, we put together a very brief survey that will automatically launch once the session ends. You can also pull up, complete, and submit the survey at any time during this webinar by clicking on the survey icon circled here at the bottom of your screen. Before signing off today, please take a moment to complete this quick questionnaire. Doing so will help us better serve you. Now I'm pleased to introduce our featured speaker for today, Daryl Prill. Daryl is the CMO of VanillaSoft and has over 25 years experience spanning startups, restarts, consolidations, acquisitions, divestments, and IPOs. He has been widely quoted in the media, including television, press, and trade publications. He is a guest lecturer, public speaker, and radio personality that has been featured in numerous podcasts, case studies, and best-selling books. Daryl is a former recipient of the coveted 40 Under 40 award and has held senior executive roles in leading companies including Sybase, which is now a part of SAP, Cognos, which is now a part of IBM, WebPlan, which is now Kinaxis, and CML Emergency Services, which is now a part of Motorola. With that, I'll pass things over to you, Daryl. Go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Brian. I really appreciate that. What I heard as you gave my bio was that everywhere I went, I got acquired. That's what it sounded like. But I'm really excited to be here. And I'm really excited about this topic. I got to be honest with you. In my past, I've been a sales exec. I've been a marketing exec. I've held the bag. I've done door-to-door sales work. You know, I sold photocopiers once upon a time. And that will toughen you up in a hurry. By trade, I'm actually a computer programmer, so I actually understand the software, and if times are tough, perhaps I can pick that trade back up again, but it has been several years since I've done any coding. But ironically, the marketing craft has kind of come back, you know, towards the coding side, right? So we have all these wonderful systems in-house now that we marketers are available, that we own typically. We own the stack, and that presents an interesting circumstance for us as marketers to be the ones who are both accountable to generate the leads as well as to make sure the stack, you know, have those leads flow through all the various pieces of technology, from your marketing automation to your CRM to any other piece of technology you've got in that. And often there is a bit of a hang-up, let's call it that, what I have learned, and that is the handoff from marketing to sales. So, you know, what is that stack related? Is that people related? Well, you know, we're going to get into that right now. And 2019 is really going to be the year that I firmly believe is when marketing is going to hold sales accountable. So hopefully I've got you intrigued. Let's get on with what I mean and what this means to you. So let me put this out there. If you're a marketing professional and you've generated leads, and I don't care where you got them from, perhaps it was a trade show, perhaps it was a piece of content, perhaps it was some paid search engine marketing, and the list goes on. But you've got all these different channels, and you've got all these program spend you're directing towards these campaigns to generate leads, top of funnel leads, and they come in, and you're feeling pretty good. You know, depending on your lead criteria, perhaps, you know, just filling out a form is marketing qualified, and it flows all the way through to sales. Or perhaps you need a little more robustness to that to make it truly a marketing qualified lead. That may involve some nurturing, some scoring, some grading, but at a certain point in time, you, the marketer, deem that lead marketing qualified. And marketing qualified based on the definition that the sales leadership and the marketing leadership have agreed to. That, you know, I will accept a marketing qualified lead if it has the following conditions. I know the title, I know the budget, I know the industry, whatever it might be. But you've deemed it marketing qualified. And you're feeling pretty good. I've done my shtick. I've met another month's, you know, lead flow. But then you get really frustrated because you're following up, but you're feeling so good. Like, you know these leads are going to generate revenue, and yet you're not seeing them convert into pipeline. And you're like, what's going on? And you start investigating, going through your stack, going through your CRM, your marketing automation, and eventually you walk over to your sales counterparts, and this is the conversation that takes place. What do you mean that you've still not followed up on those leads? I gave you those leads a week ago from that trade show we just spent $50,000 on. Those were hot leads. You've not followed up on them yet? All right. Or if you do that, they respond with, well, we called a few, but they were crap. Of course, your response is, those leads were definitely not crap. They were not qualified. They were totally marketing qualified. How can you suggest otherwise? Or when you're there, You're talking to them, and they're saying, yeah, we got those leads, whatever. But you know what? We need more leads. We need more leads. You're not giving me enough leads. And, of course, you're like ready to blow your top, right? Because you're saying, what do you mean you need more leads? Stop asking me for more leads. Work the leads that I gave you. They're good. They're golden. They fit the marketing qualified criteria. So, this is a conversation I've had quite often. But as I rose to the ranks, the questions changed a little more because now I own the budget. I was the one making the decisions on where the spend was going. And I better not screw that up because the management team and ultimately the board is going to hold me accountable for a return on that marketing spend. And, of course, my lament when I talk to my sales executive counterpart is, why are you wasting my marketing spend? I did spend $50,000 on that lead, on that trade show, and you waited a week, and then you called 10% of them, and you said they're crap, and you gave it up. Please, for the love of God, stop wasting my marketing spend. Because you know what you're doing? You are killing my program ROI, the return on the investment I make to generate leads for the company, for the pipeline, for you. That is the biggest complaint that we marketers often have about sales. Here's what you need to know. You're not alone. It's actually an industry-wide phenomena. It's not just you in your organization, and it might feel that way sometimes. And sometimes you talk to your peers, and they don't have that problem. Well, guess what? They are the outlier. You're the norm. Let me give you some stats. So one of the stats is that 48% of new leads that you've generated never get contacted. And this stat's been out there for a while. So I'm going to round. I'll say 50%. That's 1 in 2 leads that you've generated are never getting contacted by sales. Now, for that remaining 52% that are getting contacted, less than 2 call attempts are made to those new leads. Now, I don't know about you. I don't answer my phone every single day. Often I let it go to voicemail. I check voicemail periodically. But candidly, if you're only going to try twice to get a hold of me, that ain't going to work. But that's the industry-wide phenomena. Less than 2 call attempts are made to new leads. Now, I've seen stats say as high as 4, but I've never, ever seen a study beyond 4. And that is not it. And as a marketer, I'll use a simple analogy. How many times do you need to see a brand or a logo before it sticks in your memory and you recall it? Some will say 9, some will say 12, some will say much, much larger. Well, that analogy falls right back to the number of attempts you have to reach out. Often I will see an individual reach out to me over and over and over again on my phone, and finally by day 6 or day 8, I'm just feeling so guilty that this individual is working so hard to get a hold of me. I pick up the phone just out of pure guilt. But if they hadn't made those number of attempts, I never would have picked up the phone. However, industry says less than 2. Now, this is the last one, speed to lead. So what does that mean? That means when you make a new lead, so perhaps you're paying for search engine marketing, and that search engine marketing, you click on that, and that goes to a piece of content because they Googled on something, and you gave them a killer piece of content. That killer piece of content might have cost you $5,000 to make, not to mention the AdWords spend you get, to drive that traffic. And they're there, and they fill out the form, and they hit submit, and boom, you've got the lead. Well, you can sit back for 35 to 60 hours before the average sales rep will call them. Said another way, you can sit back for a day and a half to 2.5 days before they call. And today's buyer, they kind of want instant satisfaction. So what happens when you wait a day and a half to 2.5 days? Well, I think you can figure it out. It is an industry-wide phenomenon. You are not alone, but that doesn't mean you should accept it. We did a study not too long ago. The truth of the matter is we didn't do the study. What we did is we took all of our data, which was over 130 million sales interactions once it was all cleaned, and we gave it to the Telfer School of Management, and that's part of the University of Ottawa, and their PhDs and their students went at the data. And what they came up with was an analysis that, and the charts are here, and you can go to vanillasoft.com and download this Telfer study under resources if you're so inclined. It's a simple read, it's a good read, and it does a couple things. What it's really showing you here is the very early, it's hard to see this, I understand that, but in the left side, if you call within 5 minutes, your likelihood of actually seeing, getting connection and having a successful outcome it's less than 7%. If you wait more than a day, the outcome is around 5%. Now remember we said it was a day and a half to 2.5 days. So that means if you finally call them 2.5 days later, the chances of you having a successful outcome, and that is defined in this study as just a positive next step. Maybe it's, yes, I'll take your call. Yes, I'll do a demo. Yes, I'll let you do a discovering session. Sure, I'll talk to your account executive, whatever it might be. So 5%. 5% of your leads, remember, 1 and 2 weren't getting called, of those who only made 2 call attempts, but let's say they got a hold of them, well, if they wait a day or more, less than 5%. Now, there's a myth out there. It's been perpetuated since the year 2007 when Inside Sales and Harvard Business Review did this study that said you should call within 5 minutes. And if you call within 5 minutes, you're 100 times more likely to get a sale. The reality is that was based on a pittance, a small subset of companies, right? Only 15,000 actual companies, where ours was done on 45 million companies. And the difference is dramatic. If you call within 5 minutes, if you're of that school of thought, you're calling way too fast. And that's why it's it's less than 7%. But if you wait 30 minutes, you're around 15%. So basically, you're triple the likelihood of connecting what you would be if you wait that day and a half to 2.5 days. Triple. And you're double if you don't call within 5 minutes, but you call within 30 minutes. The study says basically, best practice, you should call within an hour. 35 to 60 hours is a mistake, and that's why you're banging your head against the wall. The study on the right says you need to engage persistently, and this has broken down by industries, but it's like, how many call attempts do I need to make? And it varies anywhere from almost 5 to almost 18, depending on the industry. And you have 2 charts there. The left is the number of attempts, and the right is how big the data sample size was for that industry. So the reality is those 2 call attempts you made, they're not cutting it. And that's why your leads that you're making are not resulting in the pipeline contribution that you were hoping for. Here's the thing. Buyer behaviors are changed. I mean, again, that one study, the 5-minute myth, 2007, that was, that's 11 years ago, almost 12 years ago. And social media is certainly dramatically different today than what it was then. We've all been conditioned as buyers. We now know where to go. We have expectations of instant gratification. So when someone submits a lead, they want an answer now. Because when they're doing that, chances are they've done their homework and they've already gone on social media and they've already checked out you as a vendor or your solution offering. They've gone to other, social proof venues. That could be a review site like G2 Crowd or Capterra. There could be a discussion forum like Reddit. But they've done all this homework already. And if you don't believe me, just look at the emergence of live chat. You as a marketer would know that. Live chat is hot because they're looking for answers now. But the truth of the matter is, whether they're submitting a form or they're chatting to you online, they want an answer now. But unfortunately, sales is unable to do that. So, is the sales team at fault? And it feels like it is, right? The reality is, they're not. And so some analysis was done. And what they started to figure out is, what's the root cause of this? Why does sales only make 2 call attempts? Why does sales take, a day and a half to 2.5 days to call? Why do they take so long to respond to new leads? Because you think about it, the sales folks, they're not trying to make our life difficult. They're financially motivated and incented to actually be successful. They want those deals. And the reality is what they've learned is CRM uses this construct of a list. So think about it. You log into Salesforce.com or anything else, and what do you see? You see a list of the leads you need to call and the tasks you need to do. It's a manual process. Now that list may be sorted, but it's still manual because I have to take my mouse and I have to physically click. But what do? If I'm a sales rep and on that list, sorted, from highest priority down, I see Joe's Garage, IBM, ABC Manufacturing. What do I do as a rep? Well, I skip Joe's Garage and I go right to IBM because IBM, hey, it's IBM. They got money. They got needs. They're big. That's going to be a big deal. Lots of seats, lots of presidents. I'm going to be the hero. So they skip Joe's Garage. And as new leads keep coming in, Joe's Garage just scrolls off the page. And Joe's Garage becomes that 1 and 2 that doesn't get called. All right. But again, as those action items go to the second page, out of sight, out of mind. So they're only making 2 call attempts because they don't see it anymore. They just see what's in front of them, and that's what they're working. Further, when they're in that task and they make a call, or they send an email, or they reach out on LinkedIn, CRM requires you to actually make a manual task, follow up again. And that might be in a day, in a week, in a month. It's kind of up to the whim of the sales professional. So what you've done there is that manual task means half the time they're going to say, nobody answered, it wasn't serious, screw it, move on to the next one. No call attempts done. Or we're going to call in a week, but they wanted immediate answers, that immediate gratification. They're in the buying stage. I'm going to call back in a week. When I do call back, they're going to say we already bought. So there's no cadence there. It's all about the list. The list is biting them in their behind, and that's what's causing the grief. What we need to do is get rid of the list. We need to get rid of those manual processes. If we do that, then maybe life gets better, and maybe these problems go away. In fact, some would argue you need to remove the whole sales qualification stage. Remember, you gave them marketing qualified, and what they're trying to do is now sales qualified. If it's sales qualified, now it becomes a deal, an opportunity in the pipeline, and the account executive chases it. Some would say you need to physically remove the whole sales qualification stage right out of CRM. The CRM is the wrong tool. So is the sales team at fault, or are they a victim of the technology choices they've made? Sales engagement comes in. You've probably heard of this. If you've not, it's big. It's huge. In fact, Gartner was telling me the other day that the #1 inquiry they get is about CRM. The #2 inquiry they get is about sales engagement. Put it this way, CRM, just by the definition, customer relationship management, it's designed for managing relationships. They exist. Sales engagement is designed for starting them. You're trying to engage a prospect in a dialogue, see why they hear what their needs are. And what you need to do is because remember, marketing typically owns the stack, is you've got to kind of use the right tool for the right purpose to get the right outcome. Simplest way I think of this is marketing automation you're using probably today, maybe it's a simple email, that creates the marketing qualified lead. Sales engagement will turn that marketing qualified lead into a sales qualified lead. They're going to say, yes, this prospect, this MQL, they have budget, they have authority, they have need, they have a timeline. There's a BANT right there. This is the right lead for the sales rep to pursue. And then we're going to flip it to the CRM where the account exec will turn that SQL into a deal. 3 different pieces. Historically, that would have been 2. Marketing automation right down to CRM. Said a different way. Think of sales engagement as the system of record for your inside sales or your sales development team, just like marketing automation is the system of record for your marketing team. Look at it this way. On the left, what you're seeing is the classic demand waterfall that's defined by serious decisions. We've all come to, fundamentally accept it, top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom of the funnel. And on the right are the technology pieces that correlate to where they are in the funnel. So marketing automation is about making the demand, and that's the purview of the marketing department. That's their job, top of funnel, and we generate an MQL. The sales development rep is at that engaging stage where they prioritize and they qualify. And that's all. They're not closing deals, they're just qualifying these deals. That's where sales engagement resides. The output of that is a sales qualified lead, an SQL. Then it goes over to the account exec. Now they're probably in their CRM where they're working, they're adding to the pipeline, and they're closing the deal. So that's another way of thinking about your stack, roles and responsibilities. So you're the right tool for the right role. Interesting about this is it overcomes a number of shortcomings, all right? And you're really forcing that rep accountability. That's how the discussion started today. How is marketing going to hold sales accountable? And let me make it really easy for you. There's a couple different ways we do it. Remember we said part of the problem there in CRM was the list? So the list is an issue because it's a manual process. So let's just get rid of it. Boom, gone. But if it's gone, then how do we work that? How does the sales development rep work those MQLs I gave them? Simple. It's with a concept called a queue. And a queue, said another way to think of it, is a lineup, right? You queue up to get your food when you're waiting at the fast food restaurant. You queue up in the drive-thru, all right? And it's whoever's first in line, they get served first, and the next one gets served after them. It's a queue. So in a sales engagement system that uses a queue, when the sales development rep, the SDR, logs in, they don't see a list. They just see the next lead, the next MQL that they're supposed to contact, and all the related information and all the history in a single screen. That's it. There is, by doing that, there's no cherry picking. So in my example, what would they see? They would see Joe's Garage. They would have no idea that IBM will appear after they deal with Joe's Garage. They just say, Joe's Garage. You're dealing with Joe's Garage right now. Next thing is they have this concept of a result code. So remember we said one of the problems was you have to have a manual process of making that next task, and if I don't do it because I'm not inclined, they never get called again. That's why we only have 2 call attempts. The result code changes that. A result code could say I left a voicemail, I left an email, I said whatever, I touched them on LinkedIn, or you can define those any way you want to. But as soon as you do that, it updates the system. It's a single click. This is what I did. And Joe's Garage is gone. Whoosh! And now suddenly IBM appears. All right? And the best part of that is you have defined the cadence associated with the result code. So you could say if I leave a voicemail, then I want to call back tomorrow in 24 hours. So now that lead, Joe's Garage, goes into the queue and it will not appear until tomorrow. But not in 2 days, not in 4 days, not in 7 days, not in 30 days, not in ever. It will appear tomorrow. And the rep will have to call Joe's Garage again. And it's that constant going back into the queue that suddenly gets your engagement attempts from 2 attempts to 22 attempts, whatever it requires. The beauty of that is it also ensures a cadence because you define the queue allows you to define, and the result codes allow you to define the cadence. I'm going to reach out, a new lead comes in, I'm going to reach out once a day for 3 or 4 days. I'm going to stop. I'm going to wait 3 or 4 days of silence so they don't think I'm totally stalking them. And then I'm going to start again, maybe 3 more days, I'm going to stop. And I'm going to do it again. Whatever the cadence is, whatever the scheduled frequency is, the sequencing is that you want to do it. And maybe your first touch is an email, and the next touch is a phone call, and the next touch is a social. That's all part of your cadence. That's automatic. The queue makes it simple. The result code gets rid of the manual processes, and then the queue utilizes the cadence to make sure the frequency of the rhythm is always happening. That gives you that built-in persistency, so you're never forgetting when to call them. And the best part of this, you're going to love this, my fellow marketers. That lead came in. Remember, you had a search engine, AdWord, and they went to your piece of content, and they filled out their form. Boom! That drops into the front of the queue. So as soon as they deal with IBM, here's your new lead. Or maybe it was too fast. They dealt with IBM, and it's only been 3 minutes. So up comes ABC Manufacturing. And you're on the phone with them for 10 minutes, and you result code them. Now here's your new lead, because now it's been 15 minutes since that came in. That's the speed to lead. No more day and a half to 2.5 days. If you do all this, is it worth the pain? Is it worth the trouble? Should you do this? Should you incur this disruption, incur the wrath of your sales folks as you upset their apple cart and change their processes? Well, the answer is yes, but only if you want 3 times more pipeline activity, because they're actually 3 times more productive with the queue. Get rid of that list. They're literally 3 times more productive, and your pipeline triples just by doing that. Also, because you're moving it from days to follow them to within minutes, then you've just tripled, as we talked about on that Telfer study, your likelihood of a successful outcome. If you do that, you're going to average roughly 12 attempts per contact, per MQL, before you finally connect with them and decide, yes, they're qualified, or no, they're not, as opposed to less than 2. You're going to find your sales team as a whole are minimally 50% more productive. Often, clients who put in sales engagement platforms are thinking they need more sales reps because they need more activity, because they need more pipeline, because they have bigger revenue numbers. When they just make their team more productive by using a sales engagement platform, they don't have to hire those people. They're just that much more successful, that much more productive. And because now I can do more activity with less people, my actual cost per lead starts to drop dramatically. And what marketer does not like a lower CPO? So, 2019, it's a brave new world, kids. This, my fellow marketers, is the year that marketing will hold sales accountable. They will hold them accountable to new lead outreach every single time. That's your speed to lead. They will hold them accountable to a persistent number of attempts, not 2, but maybe 22. They will hold them accountable to work every single lead, not cherry picking, every single lead. That 48% that never got contacted before, gone. They will hold them accountable to the right mix of engagements, phone, email, social. They will make sales accountable to marketing for campaign ROI. Those laments you had at the beginning, what do you mean you've not called the leads yet? What do you mean those leads were crap? It all goes away. It all goes away because of this approach. You own the stack typically. You control this. You control the MQL, and now you can control the SQL using a sales engagement platform. Because how could management say no to this because of the ROI you're going to bring into the organization? That, Brian, my good friend, that is the day marketing held sales accountable. If you want to know more, just go to vanillasoft.com, and we have lots of resources there for you. But with that, I'm going to pass it on to my good friend, Brian.
Thanks for that, Daryl. That was a really great presentation. It's really interesting to see how changing buyer behaviors are impacting the way that sales needs to be engaging with them. And you shared some great tips there about how marketing can find the right tools and processes to help them do that and ultimately hold them accountable for making sure that leads aren't falling to the wayside there. This presentation sparked some really great questions, but before I get to those, I'd like to remind everyone once again to please share your thoughts and feedback before logging off today. You can do so by clicking the little survey icon at the bottom of your little window there, and the survey will also automatically launch when the session ends. So with that, let's get into these questions. The first one I have, Daryl, is from Brendan, and this question in particular is one I feel like I'm hearing asked every single day from our reader base in particular. It comes down to the SDR team and where it sits within the organization. So should marketing own the SDR team? Should sales own the SDR team? Should the SDR team be freewheeling, just running around doing whatever they please? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a loaded question, and I get asked it a lot. There is no one right or wrong answer. Let me phrase my answer, and then I'll give you my thoughts. We wouldn't have been having this conversation 2 years ago, let alone 3 or 4 or 5. So that's the first part it's really telling. Yet now we are. In fact, now people think it's not uncommon. I know David Delaney recently at his 10-Bound conference, he suggested imminently we're going to start seeing a roll around, a VP of sales development, that it may be its own role altogether, separate from sales and separate from marketing, because it's that strategic. But the reality is, if I look at most people, if you've been in this game for a really, really, really long time, you want to own that. That's what you know. That's what you're comfortable with. If you're a more recent, leader in the sales role, you tend to just want to chase deals that are qualified, and you don't mind giving that up at all. I think what's changed all this, now, my point of view, is it goes back to who owns the stack. And marketing has evolved, typically, as the organization that owns the stack. So it makes perfect sense that marketing would only not just do the MQL process, but also do the sales qualified process, the SQL. So that what we're giving to marketing is not 300 leads from a trade show. We're giving them 30 qualified leads. All 30 of these leads have BANT. Go follow those leads, and go follow them with much fervor and activity and as you can muster. That helps the sales team stay focused, helps them, they know the leads are qualified, and it keeps them accountable. So there's no more excuses. And from an executive point of view of overall authority and delivering results, I don't know a CEO that doesn't want their sales team uber focused. So my opinion, it should move into marketing, but I still think you're probably 5 more years before that would become more mainstream.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. It feels like there's still a lot more room for growth there, and for understanding where exactly marketing and sales need to be in order to maximize that kind of a relationship with the SDR team, especially from the technology standpoint. Good points there. The second question I have here is from Annie, and it's pertaining to a few stats that you shared early on in the presentation. She asks, is the 48% lack of response percentage point that you quoted actually true? She's seen a lot of references that this is actually a myth. I believe this is the stat pertains to 1 out of every 2 leads falls to the wayside and isn't contacted in any which way.
Well, I've heard that same reference, and that's a really good question. So let me answer it 2 ways, 2 points. Point number 1, we got that stat from all the major searchers out there. I've seen LinkedIn quote it. I've seen HubSpot quote it. I've seen lots of major credible authorities quote that stat. However, I myself did not personally do that study, so I'm relying upon their integrity and their fact-checking. But let's go to my second point is, let's walk through the fact that it's not, all right, just for, a kick. So it's not 48%, more simple math, 1 and 2 times. So what is the number? Is it 1 in 4 times? Is it 1 in 5 times? So let's assume it's 1 in 4 times, right? 25% of the times they don't call. If I can change that with a very simple technology play, which revises my processes to adapt to today's modern buyer, you're darn tootin' I'm going to do that in a hurry. That is a no-brainer. So fair enough. We can argue that it may or may not be relevant, and I don't have an issue with that. But in the end of the day, I don't think anybody will disagree that our experience with the sales organization is often there's a number of leads they never follow up on. And it's not malicious. It's just they're making a judgment call, and that's affecting marketing's ROI.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I haven't seen a single B2B organization that says they are 100% following up with every single lead that comes to them. So no matter what the percentage point, I feel like there's still opportunity to streamline your processes there with the right tools and processes to ultimately drive better results. And who doesn't want that? So. Next question we have here is from Matt. The question, it's an interesting one because I hear it a lot as well when it comes to specific practices in the space, in this case, sales engagement. Matt asks, can't you do sales engagement using just a CRM tool? You kind of touched on it a little bit earlier pertaining to the differentiations between the CRM tool and the relationship side of things versus engagement and building that relationship to the start, but I think it'd be great to kind of elaborate on that.
So, Matt, that's a great question. The answer, well, I guess I'm going to be candid. The answer is I'm not seeing it done. All right? Let's go through it piece by piece. So part of a sales engagement is a queue, right? So, and that's not new. A lot of customer management, customer support, customer service applications use a queue instead of a list, and there's a reason why, because it is far more productive. But every single CRM out there is list-based, all right? So that's the first thing that a CRM wouldn't work for. Now, you try to work around that by creating some very sophisticated filters and dashboards and not queues, but just reports to say these are the leads you should call and when. And perhaps they're dynamic and they recompute every 10 minutes or something. New lead comes in, maybe it appears at the top or not. But the reality is, it's still a list. All right, it's still going to say Joe's Garage, IBM, and ABC Manufacturing. And I'm going to still take IBM before I take Joe's Garage because I'm comped to close deals. And IBM has more money. We all know that, even though Joe's Garage is prepared to buy right now. So the user interface of a list versus a queue just makes CRM not work, no matter how hard you try it. When you add on to the fact that a CRM still has to do manual processes to say that the next task is, that's not going to work either. So I've not seen it work. I'm more than willing to say I'm wrong, but there is a reason that Gartner's #2 inquiry behind CRM is sales engagement. And that's really telling on its own, right? If CRM could do it, and that is their #1 inquiry, then they wouldn't be getting these inquiries for sales engagement. So, knock yourself out, ask Gartner their thoughts on that, but what I've never seen it done. I do not believe it can be done, and I think that's why you're seeing this be such a huge explosion. The only other reference I can give you there, sir, is think about marketing automation. Years ago, we would have said, well, can't you just send an email out of CRM? It's just not the same. It's a different beast.
Really interesting. And this next question kind of builds off of that, pertaining to your comparison to what the CRM can and cannot do versus sort of like a sales engagement tool. This question is from Heather. Heather asks, are you suggesting that the CRM is no longer required within the tech stack for a sales rep? What are your thoughts on that?
Wow, that's another loaded one. If you're a CRM advocate or evangelist, you're certified in Salesforce, you're going to be shouting up and down that I'm a moron right now and it will never go away. And you have every right to make that declaration and that accusation, and I will actually defend your honor to do that. However, there are many in the industry who think exactly that CRM is in fact going away. I was having a conversation with the folks at Topo HQ. It's another research firm. They're big in this space. And they're of the opinion that CRM will become, much like it is now, the corporate backbone. As far as the sales function goes, you saw me with a visual there in the slides where it went from MQL and marketing to SQL, which was the SDR role, to an actual deal, which was an account executive role, and they were living in CRM, the account executive was. And Topo HQ, amongst others, will say, no. Why do they need to leave the sales engagement platform? They really don't have to. You can do the forecasting, you can do the account management, you can close a deal, and only when the deal is closed do you pass it off. So what I can tell you is this. In the case of VanillaSoft, we literally surveyed our customer base, and we have over 4,000 users, months ago. And over half of them do not have a CRM. Over half of them, we are both their sales engagement and their CRM platform. What I think you're going to see is this. I think the SMB market will eventually just go marketing automation to sales engagement, then boom, the deal's done, pop it over CRM as a corporate backbone. But that's where they're going to live. I think in an enterprise account, it will continue to be marketing automation, sales engagement, and CRM. That's my gut. I could be wrong, but that's what those who are much smarter than I are suggesting is going to happen.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me. The CRM is kind of like the backbone, and the sales engagement aspect of the tech stack, if you will, is making sure that those relationships are starting off well and making sure that you're meeting buyer expectations, which is the ultimate goal, and ultimately closing those deals. So with that, unfortunately, Daryl, we don't have any more time for any more questions. However, folks, if your question has gone unanswered, we'll be sure to follow up with you after this session. We will be passing along any questions to Daryl and his team, and they will be sure to follow up with you and make sure that your questions get answered. Thanks again to Daryl for such a great session, and thank you to all our attendees for taking the time to join us today. Please be sure to join us tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern for the final session in our strategy and planning series, where experts from Content for Demand will share the payoffs of a strategic content audit. It's definitely something you don't want to miss. So thanks again, and have a great rest of the day.